Ms. Floreen.
Thanks very much.
Thank you to all of you in MCPTA. You've been really tremendous advocates since I started working with you. It's been over 8 years now, and you've done a tremendous job. And that's why the school system is in as good shape fiscally, I think, as it is. I'm not sure the full extent of the bad news that Roger shared with you, but I'll just tell you what we know now. And we had an update on it. We've been doing our very best to include all members of the Board of Education on all our fiscal briefings and all the information that we've had, so that there wouldn't be surprises. Last year there were some surprises, I guess, and it made it kind of tough. But this year, what we discovered in last month is that revenues that we're anticipating for next year are now 4% less than what we had assumed in May or in June, which was in turn less than we had this year. Last year, in June, we projected, we adopted a plan over for the next 6 years that give us sort of a basic outline of what the revenue sources look like, assuming all things went okay, before we heard about the teacher pension issue and other issues. But we knew everyone knew last June that we were going to, at best, have 1/10 of 1% more in terms of revenues than we had for the current year. That's to plan the fiscal 12 budget. We knew that last June, everyone knew. And now we hear it's 4% less based on declines in revenue. So as most of you, I'm sure, heard, we adopted a budget savings plan that picked away some more at the budgets for this year. And the school system was a very generous player in that regard. But that is just the beginning of what's going to be a really tough budget. What we knew last May is that the county across the board was going to be $213 million in the hole. That means that we weren't going to be able to have the resources to support projected expenses if everything kept even of $213 million. That was last May. What we know now is the number is up around $300 million that we do not have available. We do not project that we will have available to fund next year's budget. And that didn't include the teacher pension issue and whatever else comes out of Annapolis, and Joe referred to some of that. So it's, we just need you to be aware of this as we moved into the details of the budget. We don't know the full extent of the state hits, but they're actually hit worse than we are in many respects. And they will do everything they can to pass things down to us, or additional costs down to us, bit by bit. There was a nice story in the Post, I guess it was today, about the library system. You've seen they're cut to the bone. They've been devastated. We've had to do that with social services. We had to, did you go through the list of things we did?
No, I think that's you.
Okay. Well, George is here. He can pick up the slack. We ended up having to defund, as it were, 21 support system in the public safety system for in the volunteer farm rescue service. And we're going to see more and more things like that. As a result, we did commission a report, and we've got the results, and we're going to shared that with the members of this board as well as the public at large, that lays out some of the most significant cost drivers. Really, the significant cost drivers are people. Government, schools, it's a people-based business. And that's where I'm sure we're going to be looking, and we'll hope to be working with the board and looking at where can we address those costs. We're not alone. We're like everybody else in the world. If you read the New York Times yesterday, one of their lead stories was about government employees, how much they cost, and how no one can afford that. I was glad at least we didn't come up with the story. It was mostly about New Jersey. But it's the same issue everywhere. Nobody can afford to fund these kinds of critical services, and the cost of employees are very difficult. I just got an email, I think it was from our church or some group, that just had a big increase in health insurance premiums. All these things are really hurting government's ability to achieve basic services. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be struggling with on the council this year. What services can we continue to deliver? We have another group looking at, are there big savings we can find in terms of merging programs? Are there other sorts of things that we can do to reduce the pressure on fundamental services? But I've been through 8 years of budget hearings, and well, we did have one guy who came in last year and said, identified a program or two we could cut. That was it. So let's see, 8 times 300. I've heard from 2,500 people more or less over the years on budget issues, and none, one person said don't do this. But pretty much everybody is pretty committed to supporting, the services that they need, that they love, that they require. And this is going to be a very, very difficult year. Our most vulnerable are getting more vulnerable. Access to transportation, to health services, to just basic needs is tremendous. The runs on Manna Food Bank this year have been tremendous. We all know people who are out of work or who cannot pay their bills. And that's, of course, translating into the lower amounts of revenue that the counties were saving through taxes and whatever of one sort or another. So it's tough. And I'm sure we will come through this, and I'm very optimistic that we'll be able to work together. I think what was key, it has got to be key to our success as a county working through all this, is just sharing this information. We don't want people to be surprised by the reality of the decisions that have to be made. And they are significant, they are serious. I'm sure you're starting to see some of that outside in the community, and you will only see more of that, I think, in the coming years. We don't see the fiscal clouds brightening for several years, and that's one of the challenges. That we really run through the short-term things that we thought we could do to keep us on track. We've thrown overboard most of the things we could live without. And now we're looking at how we can control spending on the things we really need. So that's it.
Thank you very much.